Welcome. In this session, we will discuss about a very important announcement which was made yesterday by the cabinet that the cabinet committee headed by Prime Minister has approved the National Education Policy 2020. Now this policy is very important by the way it actually look into the things the education should be. The major change, one of the very basic things that have been changed over here is that the erstwhile Ministry of Human Resource Development now would be called as Ministry of Education. Now, if you think about it, it's because on the line that they want to focus more on education and learning. So instead of the whole ambit of resource development, they said that at the core of it should be the education and learning. And hence the ministry has itself been renamed to Ministry of Education. Now let's try to see what all was the major decisions that were taken, and we will go through them in detail one by one, all the major highlights which were presented by the Mr. Javadekar yesterday. We will go them in detail and also try to see what kind of impact it will have on education. For UPSC perspective and in general sense also, education is a very important sector for human development. Education and health forms the cornerstone on which the entire human development index or even human development in general works, and on the broadened side of it the economy is based on. So because of it, it's very important that we look into this recent policy. Let's see what is the major thing which happened yesterday. So it was approved by the cabinet committee which was headed by Prime Minister. So the Prime Minister headed the committee, and in which he approved the National Education Policy 2022. Now the major aim of this particular policy is to pave way for transformational reform in school and higher education system. Later in this slide, we will see what kind of changes has been asked for in the latest development. But the major theme is like the whole new education policy is about transformational reform, and there has been quite a number of reforms which has been introduced. Also, a point to be noted over here is this is an educational policy which has come after a long period of time. So the last national education policy was formed in 1986, which was almost 34 years back. So this is a welcome change and a much needed one. So there has been deliberation about the new education policy since 2016, and latestly the last report was submitted by Kasturi Ranjan, and in his report a lot of suggestion has been asked from the people. So there has been a lot of responses from all people, like common people, from educationalists, from scientists and industrialists. So they have all contributed to the suggestion which was presented by the Kasturi Ranjan report in 2019. Now when we are at it, let's also try to understand how the education policy in India has evolved. Now these are the things which are after independence. Like pre-independence, it's your homework that you have to do. Pre-independence, there are few committees which specifically worked in educational reform. Look into Hunter Commission, look into Sadler Commission. So these are two major commission, and try to see what kind of changes they have proposed at that time. Also going before it, there was a very famous person who is called as the one who actually introduced the whole education system, and that is your Woods Dispatch. It was proposed during the time of Dalhousie, and that is the basic. Woods Dispatch was the basic on which the whole education system in pre-independence era was based on. Later came the Hunter Commission and Sadler Commission. Go through your history book, check out your spectrum in which it is actually mentioned there. Check their provision, what was their main aim and what was their recommendation. Just go through that. Now coming back to after independence. So we know that after independence, India was facing a major problem of illiteracy. A very few number, as low as the 32% people were literate during the time when India got independence. And from that to the present level of literacy which we have, India has paved a long way, but it still has to go a long way as well. Now let's start from the 1948. So there was a University Education Commission, and Dr. S.R. Sarvepalli Ramakrishnan was the first person who actually headed it, and he was the educationalist who kind of framed and provided recommendation. Then during the Nehruvian era itself, Secondary Education Commission was also formed, which again highlighted on what kind of things the higher education has to work on. And then we have a very important policy which marks the kind of the present system that we have, the Education Commission under D.S. Kothari. So it was one of the very prominent commission whose recommendation worked a lot. Then came the National Policy on Education in 1968, which was heavily dependent on the recommendation made by the D.S. Kothari committee. After that, in 42nd Constitutional Amendment Act, education was added in the concurrent list. So during the time of Indira Gandhi, what happened? There has been tussle between the state government and the central government in terms of educational laws. So what happened, apart from other subjects which were pulled from the state list to the concurrent list, education was one, and which gave the power to center to make law in terms of education. So that was one of the major thing which was done through 42nd Amendment Act of 1976. Now if you want to know, 42nd Amendment Act is actually called as the mini constitution itself, because a lot of changes has been done in the constitution by this amendment. So go through your Lakshmikant polity. In the appendix at the end, there is a section which talks about the constitutional amendment at glance. Check what kind of changes has been made in 42nd Constitutional Amendment Act. Okay, now let's move forward and see what happened in 1986. 1986, there was a national policy on education, and in fact this is the one which has still been continuing, and that was the one which was still being formed. So when it comes to policy, what is its main goal? So policy provides a kind of a guideline or a framework on which the every institution or organization would work on. So having a policy in place is a very important impetus to provide a more integrated and generalized and common platform through which the education could be departed. So that is one thing. Then in 1986, it was modified for some of the changes in 1992, and then recently, as discussed from 2016, there has been major deliberation on the new education policy. First, it was TSR Subramaniam which has provided the recommendation, and later last year itself, Kasturi Ranjan committee report was presented and it was open for suggestion. And after the suggestion and the round of deliberation at the cabinet level, finally the National Education Policy 2020 has been adopted yesterday. So this is kind of an evolution that you should have back of in your mind, that if you know how far we have come from where we start and what all the major committee and major people who take part in the suggestions. So this is the thing that you have to know about it. Now let's move forward and try to see what are the major development that has been proposed in this national education policy. Let's remember, this is actually very transformational. So if you go through each and every provision of it, they have provided a lot of, in fact incorporated a lot of suggestion which has been in debate for quite a long of time. So let's start with the school education. First and foremost thing, they are talking about the universalization of education, and that is also from preschool to secondary level. Now we have to understand that till now the education policy which we have been following of 1986 majorly focused from your primary to secondary. The preschool age, which is considered by many scientists as one of the very important phase in the development phase of a child, has mostly been ignored till now, but this education policy actually put the focus over there now. So the universalization of education from preschool to secondary level. And again, a very important thing that you have to remember, that they are aiming for 100% gross enrollment ratio, which means that every child who is in the age group who should be attending the school should be enrolled in the school. That is your gross enrollment ratio, and we are targeting for the 100% gross enrollment ratio right from the preschool to the secondary level. This is one of the very major advancement which has been proposed by the new national education policy. Next thing that they are talking about is they are talking about bringing back the 2 crore school children. So as many as 2 crore children has been out of school, and they are trying to bring them back into the system. So there will be some implementation measures which have to be taken, but this is the main goal on which the national education policy will work. So the executive has to come up with a plan by which the 2 crore students which has been out of the school system, they need to be pulled back into it. Next, a very important and very overhaul change which has happened, like if you have like been studying in India forever, you would have known that we have a very famous system of 10 plus 2. Like it's always been like people who were clearing their intermediate, like their 12th standard, it would be like 10 plus 2 exams. But now this has been changed. This has been changed to something called as 5334. So now the whole system has been transformed into 10 plus 2 to 5334 curriculum. Now this particular thing is actually correspondent to your age group. So 5 is like from 3 years to 8 years, which is a very important thing you should consider, because before it, from 6 year onwards only the educational needs of children were considered, but this particular education policy is focusing on the age group right from the 3 years. So from 3 years to 8 year group, they will be like in the 5, then we have 8 to 11, 11 to 14, and finally 14 to 18. So we have the entire 12 years of education and grouped into 5, 3, 3, 4. So 5, 3, 3, 4 is the new curriculum structure instead of the 10 plus 2 that we have become so used to, and we have realized that this is not working, and a very important development stage of children was being left behind because of it. So now let's also try to see what other things have been done. So very important thing in education is they are focusing on foundational literacy and numeracy. If you have been following news, you know that there is a very important NGO which give ASA report. So Pratham NGO is the one which every year release a annual survey of education report, ASA report, in which they actually measure the numeracy and literacy. Apart from that, if you are following news, you know that PISA, which is the test conducted by OECD countries, has been India has actually opted it for, like they will be conducting the PISA. Earlier it was done back like once India has participated in PISA, but the result was very kind of embarrassing for India, so because of it has pulled out. But now it has again opted, so India will be going for it. PISA also measures the literacy and numeracy, so they actually check on your reading skills as well as your mathematical skills. So because of it, there has been a major emphasis on foundational literacy and numeracy. And also one thing which has to be like applauded, and which like many reformists has always been talking about, that the separation of subjects and streams should be like streamlined. There has been like arts, commerce, science, the kind of division it has created, it was not very fluid. Now this particular policy actually talks about that there will be no more rigid separation between academic stream, no rigid separation between curricular and extracurricular. And a very important thing, so like if you go back to your history, in the Vardha scheme, Gandhiji actually talked about that the vocational education is a very important part of education. So until unless you do things by your own hand, there is a like chance that you are not learning to your entire potential. Because of it, now even from 6th class onward, there will be embedded internship which will help you to develop your vocational education. So this national education policy actually even considered the long dream of Gandhiji, in which in Vardha scheme he actually mentioned about why vocational education is so important. So these are the major things. Let's move ahead and see what other things are suggested in the school education. Very important thing, and for the country like India, which has multilingual population, it is a major push towards the benefits of the mother tongue. So what this national education policy talks about is that teaching up to at least 5th standard in mother tongue. So till 5th standard the teaching would be in mother tongue, and even it could go till 8th standard, but till 5th standard it is mandatory that at least you have to go for your regional language, your mother tongue. And also a very important thing is like this is not forced, like children are required to choose, like these language will not be imposed on them and they have the right to choose. So this is again a very major thing. Also a very important thing, so like if you have, like we all have studied and we have seen that the kind of report card which is provided, it just says the marks, the subject, the marks, maybe a comment, maybe remarks at times, like if particularly something comes to the mind of teacher, but that does not give the whole picture. Like even if I'm performing bad, where I am performing bad, that kind of feedback was never provided in the report card, and which actually kind of made it very difficult for the children to just provide the marks to the parent. And there has always been like children's not going home and showing their report card and even forging the signs of their parents. So those kind of things were there because the major issue, the root cause why the marks were like that was never provided. Which area the child is performing better, where it is lacking, that kind of feedback was never present. This national education policy actually draw the attention to the part that now it will be 360-degree holistic progress card. So now the feedback system would be 360-degree. You will actually be provided with the exact feedback, what are your skills, where you have to improve. Even for an example, if it is English, whether you are lacking in your grammar, whether you are lacking in your comprehension, such kind of feedback would be provided now in the report card itself, so the parents could also gauge the improvement or the progress of the children and what kind of effort the schools are playing in the whole process of learning. So that's a very major change and very welcome change for that. So yeah, that is there. Again, from the perspective of teachers, because at the end of the day it is teachers who will be teaching the student, so it has come up with a framework. It's national curriculum framework for teacher education, so that a kind of generalized framework could be created with the teachers could adopt and learn, and they could be like used, so that the even the pedagogical method becomes kind of similar across schools. So that is again a major change which is required, because teachers, the way the teachers teach from very way, and because of it there has been a lot of discrepancy in the learning outcome. So a framework where there is a curriculum which the teachers have to follow could actually help the children to learn in a better way. Also, by 2030, it is planning that minimum degree qualification for teaching will be 4-year integrated B.Ed program. So the 4-year integrated B.Ed program would be the minimum qualification which the teachers has to pass for providing any kind of education. So these are the major thing which is done in the school education, and if you really look into it, these are pretty welcome move, and if they are implemented in a better way or in like the way it has been drafted right now, it will lead to a very good school education moving forward. Now let's move ahead and check the kind of systems has been developed in higher education. So the changes in higher education are even more drastic. So they have become more ambitious when they have tried to reform the higher education. First of all, the major thing, the gross enrollment ratio itself has to be increased to 50% by 2035. So if you see like the women participation in tertiary education or your higher education is just 24%. So because of it, it's actually very necessary that by 2035, like from 15 years from now, we are aiming for 50% enrollment. And what we are also trying to do, there will be an increase in the seats. So the number of seats would also increase, because if you are trying to induct more student into the program, the seats obviously has to be increased. So that is one of the major thing the higher education reform will work on. Now also see that this what is actually focusing on is broad-based multidisciplinary holistic undergraduate education with flexible curriculum. So there has been always been issue. In fact, there are certain universities like Deemed University which has started with intermixing of subjects, but it has not been normalized, or what we can say, it has not been formalized to a level that it is being used in all universities. So what happened, engineering students are like focused on only engineering subject, art students are only learning about arts, but this kind of education is not feasible in the kind of world we live in, because what we need today is a kind of a polymath. We need to know a lot of subjects to actually integrate together and make them work. And because of it, it's actually very poignant that we are trying to have a multidisciplinary kind of approach where there is a fluidity between your course which you have chose and the kind of subjects you could choose in among them. So that's one thing. And also multiple entry and exit point. There has been a lot of conversation because of any family issue, financial trouble. People have to drop out at points, and it actually used to hamper their completion of degree and then later their employment chances. And because of that, it is a very welcome move that now they have been allowing the multiple entry and exit point. Another thing to know is that UG education, your undergraduate education, can be of 3 or 4 years. So they have like now fixed it for 3 and 4 years. They will give multiple exit and entry option, but the time stipulated is 3 or 4 years. So even if like you are taking exit or doing things, you have to get back the credit. And because of this system, they have actually came up with academic bank of credits. So they will actually establish a kind of bank where the credits will be a score credit that you will earn by completing one course. So that credit could be transferable. So what happen at times, students in their free time or even while doing something else, they do some courses, but so far they were not transferable, or they were not being able to use for a degree program or to complete their short in credits in other courses. So this kind of credit, academic bank of credit, would actually plug the gap over there. So that's a very welcome move over there. Another thing that you should know in what they are trying to do in higher education is they are adding multidisciplinary education and research university, MERUs. So they will be at par of your IITs and IIMs, and they plan to provide a like what kind of a model university where the multiple discipline run within the same campus look like. So MERUs would be set up going forward where they will act as a model university to provide impetus to other university to follow their kind of model. So that is again an important thing which has been mentioned in the reforms related to your higher education. Another reforms include there will be a national research foundation. So now if you have actually seen, even in the economic survey, they have mentioned that the research level is very low in India. Funding is one problem, but apart from that, not many scholars, not many faculties are actually taking up research in India because of the lack of funding is a major problem. We are one of the countries which have the lowest R&D to GDP ratio. But moving forward, setting up of a national research foundation will actually help to plug the gap, where instead of like the government organization doing the research, there will be a university which will working on the research field. So that's one of the thing which will be adding which has been added by this policy. And also like this has been in news in 2018, that earlier in 2018 itself there has been a bill proposed which actually meant to disband the UGC, and instead of UGC they were trying to form HECI, Higher Education Commission of India. That bill was still not like, they didn't convert it into act, but this national education policy again gave the impetus to it that there has to be a single regulator, and it will be in the form of your Higher Education Commission of India. Because of the multiple regulators and the kind of corruption and delays which has been happening in providing accreditation and all those stuff, it has become important that now there will be a single regulator. Apart from your medical and legal education, like not law schools and medical schools, apart from that there will be a single regulator, and that will be your Higher Education Commission of India. Now this Higher Education Commission of India will have 4 independent verticals which will focus on 4 areas of concern. So there will be a Higher Education Regulatory Council for regulation purposes. there will be General Education Council for standard setting, so that the same kind of norms and regulation could be set up for the entire ecosystem of university. Then there will be a Higher Education Grants Council, which will work for funding. So as of now, UGC has kind of mixed approach or mixed function, in which it was regulating as well as providing funding as well as managing the things. So because of it, now it was become prudent that we have independent verticals within the HECI. So there is Higher Education Grant Council, which will specifically work for funding, and then finally we will have National Accreditation Council, which will work for accreditation. So instead of AICTE, which was providing accreditation for technical education so far, such kind of things would be like do away with, and we will come up with a single regulator, which is HECI, and we have 4 independent verticals, so that there could be more autonomy, more seamless functions within these entities, and which could eventually lead to the more smooth progression of higher education. So these are the again very major changes which was introduced by higher education. Now let's also try to see that they are trying to have that private and public university or institution, for that matter of fact, work on the same norm. So there has been a lot of discrepancies between how the private institution work, how the public institution work, and to actually plug in the gap and to actually not like put the students' career in the limbo, this has been tried that going forward the private and the public, both of the universities will have same kind of standards, same kind of norm, and it will be very beneficial for the colleges, because there would be kind of a standard way in which the education has to be departed, and the industries would also not discriminate among what kind of college you have been coming from. So that is one of the thing which has been proposed in higher education. Now let's move forward and see other factors. As mentioned earlier, like they have provided with major reforms in school education, but higher education, they have like a lot of changes and more ambitious target has been set. So the affiliation, as I already mentioned, because of the problem of the accreditation and the kind of affiliation that it's gone out, they are trying to phase out of it. So like in 15 years, by 2035, they are trying to move out of affiliation system. So college will not be affiliated to some other thing, and it will be more of a statewide mechanism to establish for autonomy. So there will be more autonomy provided to the universities, and there will not be any affiliation going forward. Also, there has been like the Mr. Javadekar in his speech yesterday has specifically mentioned that we have to, like while going for modern education, we have to also remember that India is actually a country which has a huge history of culture and its traditional knowledge, and which also need to be preserved. So because of it, they are trying to set up, one of the thing which is being set up is your Indian Institute of Translation and Interpretation, which will try to change the systems in which it is working. And then the next thing which is in the block is your National Institute for Pali, Persian and Prakrit. So there are a lot of scripture, lot of text which is available in the language of Pali, Persian and Prakrit during the time of your Buddhas and your Mauryan Empire, Gupta Empire. These kind of languages were very prominent, and a lot of text is available. So National Institute of Pali, Persian and Prakrit will try to provide you basic language knowledge, as well as try to preserve the context in which these has been written. A very major overhaul apart from the things which we have discussed so far is that MPhil would be discontinued. So the chances of people going for MPhil would be discontinued moving forward. And the other thing that would be that even the PG program for 1 year. So in outside country, there were courses which they provide the PG with 1 year, but in India it's mostly 2 years. But now this education policy says that there will be PG degree with 1 year. So far there has been PG diplomas of 1 year, but PG degree would be going forward, there will be PG degree of 1 year as well. Also, they are trying for national mission on mentoring, because it has been realized that student will actually bloom better if we have mentors. So mentors from your seniors or the teachers which are willing to provide assistance, so that kind of national mission on mentoring would also take up. And then there will be an independent board of governors so that the autonomy of university could be maintained and there could be less political pressure or less interference from the political sides of things. So these are the very major things which is being introduced. Also one thing that has been introduced is like online self disclosure based transparency system of approval in place of inspection. So instead of like inspection which at times could feel like raids, because of it what they are saying that to empower the universities to provide like place more trust in them, there will be online self disclosure so that there is transparency as well as the trust placed on the university. And also another important point for you to know about the changes which has made in higher education, which has been proposed in higher education by national education policy, is a special education zone for disadvantaged region. So the region which has been considered backward in terms of they don't have proper tertiary education institute set up over there or secondary education set up over there, this will be marked as a special education zone so that the focus could be provided and infrastructure could be created and more like the whole holistic way of approach could be taken place to uplift the people of that area and provide facilities to those disadvantaged areas so far. Let's move forward. Let's try to see what kind of use of technology this particular national education policy is discussing about. So national education policy is coming in a phase when we are entering the industry revolution 4.0, which heavily rely on education on your technology. Now look at the pandemic situation of today. A lot of schools because of the pandemic situation has to move towards the e-learning platform. So now in such time it becomes very important that we have some policy in place to what kind of use of technology would be there in education. So what this policy envisions, they say that technology should be used while planning for education, teaching, learning and assessment, for administrative management and regulation as well as self-disclosure so that the minimum human interface could be maintained and more transparency and accountability and faster way of doing things could be generalized. So this is one thing which this policy envisioned for the use of technology. Now they also, like if you have followed the newspaper, you would have seen that there has been lot of reports that how the people with the disability or the Divyang that has been kind of been left behind in this present situation where learning has moved to the e-platform. So now this particular policy actually talked about how to make the education software Divyang friendly so that they could also avail the education at par. E-content in regional language is also very important because it will eventually help to provide like conserve the language as well as to provide the education to the masses. Also in this particular term only, a National Educational Technology Forum will be created. Now this particular platform will be for free exchange of ideas. So because this is a new field, we are like moving from your brick and mortar school towards the e-learning platform. It's a new thing. So a lot of ideas and solutions would be come up. So this particular forum has been created for that matter, that people could come together, provide idea and come up with solution what kind of use the technology could be to solve the major problems. So these are some things which this national education policy also talks about. Now let's also see what other details it says. So it's actually emphasizes on setting up of gender inclusion fund. So even though there has been a lot of parity in terms of primary education, the gross enrollment ratio in primary education between boys and girls has become on par. But if you go up the education ladder from secondary to tertiary, there is a huge drop. Like in tertiary, there is only 24% of female which are into the tertiary education. So because of it, it is saying that there is need to provide kind of affirmative action or kind of support from the government, and because of it, there should be a gender inclusion fund through which different kind of schemes or initiative or campaigns could be started, which could help girls to get into the education mainstream. Also, this particular policy promotes multilingual in both school and higher education. So as far as I already mentioned that till 5th grade they have made it like the education would be in mother tongue, but this also says that for higher education also there should not be only single language English like the way things had been so far, but multilingualism should be promoted. Also, major thing which has to be done, because all the kind of proposals which has been made so far could only be implemented if the GDP percentage is increased. So this policy specifically says that the GDP percentage of the education has to increase to 6% at the earliest. So that as early as possible we have to increase the percentage to 6% of GDP. Also, there is one portal or one kind of assessment center which is made, which is known as Parak. So Parak center would be created which will be assessing the students on their learning outcome on other, it's a kind of a database would be maintained. Another point that you have to know is a common entrance exam would be conducted. So right now there has been multiple examination in terms of your getting to higher education. Your state levels exam is there, then your for engineering there is another examination, GE is there, and then there are a lot of examinations. So what NTA, which is your national testing agency, so your national testing agency will conduct a common test. So that there will be less burden and people could actually, like the student could actually focus on a single test and perform there instead of burdening them with a lot of tests. So there will be a common entrance test going forward for your entrance to higher education. And a very major portion, one of the things which should like be a great news for the people who love books, now the government in this national policy actually says there will be book promotion. So it's very important that apart from the books that you are reading in your curriculum, there has to be a promoting policy to push to the student to read more books, and in this present times to set up digital libraries so that the content is easily accessible to the students. So these are the major highlights which has been pointed out in the national education policy which was presented yesterday. Now let's also see what it targets. So what are its target, what it's try to achieve, like what are its ambitious goals are. So first of all, it is trying to attain foundational learning and numeracy skills through national mission by 2025. So in next 5 years, the focus would be on learning and numeracy skills like your comprehension, English reading comprehension, and your mathematics, so that the foundational skill could be achieved by 2025. Next thing is the teachers to be prepared for assessment reform in 2023. Like in next 3 years, the teachers have to like really prepare themselves. There will be assessment reform in which they have to like really again maybe go for the test or something which will help them to streamline their training so far. And it's also go for inclusive and equitable education system by 2030. So instead of like as I mentioned, there has been some issue by which the disabled people have not been able to learn in the pandemic area. So such kind of problem should not happen moving forwards. We are going for an inclusive and equitable education which is available for all and which is inclusive. So the people who cannot avail education, there will be affirmative actions for them so that they could also be brought back into the schooling system. So that is one of the thing which this particular NEP targets to achieve. Next thing is board exams has been for a lot of student. It has used to push a lot of pressure on the student and they were like struggling, and because of it now it has been decided and it's actually due a long time that board exams to test the core concept and application of knowledge. So they will be like low stakes and they will be more prominent on checking your key concept instead of just rote learning. So instead of like just remembering your definition and writing and time and then getting marks according to that, they will be focused on your normal concept, your application based knowledge. So that's a major change which will be there. if this NEP is implemented in its entirety. Now every child will come out of school adept in at least one skill. So that's the benefit of going for the vocational training right from the start of 6th class onward. Every student will not only just be like the one who has read books or who has scored something, but they will have some skill or the other which could eventually help them to gain better employment. And also there will be common standards of learning in public and private schools. So far, in higher education as well as in your primary and secondary education, there has been lot of discrepancies between public and private school. And if you actually look at the Delhi model of education, we will know that if the education, like the government of the day, is actually focused on improving that, public school could also perform better. So this national education policy actually focuses on the target that moving forward there will be common standard for both public and private, so the discrepancy could be bridged and all the student could get the more inclusive and equitable education. So these are the major thing which national education policy talked about. There are a lot of things which are still which were a part of the draft committee by Kasturi Ranjan, which has not been provided. There has not been any major guideline about the counseling of child and what kind of moral education background would be provided, which was recommended over there. So those things would be debated later, but as of now this national education policy is actually a very positive and very right kind of policy. If implemented properly, this will actually lead to a better education sector in India. So I hope you have understood this video. You have gone through all the points that we have discussed. I have also mentioned some of the things that you have to, like from UPSC point of view, you have to go back and check in your history and polity what all that is all about. But yeah, if you have any doubt, feel free to comment on the video. Like this video, share it with your friends. Thank you.